All right, guys, to finish us off for the rest of the day, we are going to be taking this into Cura to 3D print it. Now, there's lots of different ways to export a model that you just made, but the easiest way I found is to just right-click where it says body, and then say save as mesh. We're going to save it in the format of an STL. That's the same format we had on all of Thingiverse, and we can actually see all of our mesh in there as well. I want a really high quality part on here, so I've decided to set this as a high. If I only want a little bit of data associated with it, I can click a low refinement, and this kind of gives me a low poly feature on this. But because I'm actually going to be using this as a reference and potentially as an actual printed part saying, hey, I made this, check it out, I can keep it as high. But my unit type up here, I want to move it over to millimeters because I'm pulling it into Cura, which is a purely millimeter based software. I can click OK, and then I'm going to pull this basically just onto my desktop. So I can name this emitter and hit save. And it saves just like that, very, very quickly. There is another way to export your file, and that's by going File, Export. And you can save this again to your desktop, but unfortunately what happens is that it will save all this information, all this exported file, to your cloud account, your Fusion cloud account, and also onto your computer as well, your local drive. For some reason, this takes forever. If you were to take this relatively simple file, it would probably take about 20 minutes to fully download, which I don't have time for. So just saving it as a STL onto your computer, very, very snappy. So basically never use the export tool, it takes way too long. We're gonna be going over to Cura right now, just like normal. We're gonna be going File or Control Open, and I'm going to be opening up our emitter right there. And you can see we made this sideways because that's how my model is going to live. But I want to print this in the other orientation. I actually want to flip this upwards. So I can click this, go to rotate, and then my select face, I want to click the very, very bottom. And this will pull it down to the very middle. I also want to change a couple things about this file. I want to make the layer height really, really small. I want to go to what's called the super quality, where it's 0.12 millimeters. And because I have a lot of overhang right here, all of the red sections on the underside, all overhang. If I just tried to print it like this, it would be very droopy and kind of ugly. I want to add in some support. So I'm going to scroll down to support, check that, and go, yep, tree support, and hit slice. All of my other settings that I have on here are perfectly fine. I don't really need to change too much about anything else. All of my walls, I can keep this at 4. This is perfectly fine. All of my top and bottoms, this is also perfectly fine. My infill, ooh, I actually want to cancel that. I want a good amount of infill, so I'm going to make this 10%. This is a little slow, so I'm just going to delete Fusion. Yeah, I don't need that. I already made it beforehand. So let's go and slice it again. Again, all of our temperatures are perfectly normal. All of our speed is looking good. As far as the travel, our retraction settings are perfectly normal. Cooling, I always want to have 100% cooling for everything else, except for the very, very first layer. This is how I get much better surface adhesion. My tree support, I've set it to a support overhang angle of 75 degrees, which will be just fine for us. And this is all done. So we can go ahead and click preview. And now we've got all of our support material. So let's check it out layer by layer. So just like before, I've set my line type as my color scheme. Normally it looks like my material color, which is, well, all yellow, but I want to go to line type so I can see what's going on. And going to our very first layer, we can see a very, very thick border because just like in our Cura episode, we set everything to a 50% extra line width, so more material. We've got this little blue line. This is our skirt going all the way around. but we also have all this blue stuff in the middle, and this is the very base layer of our tree support. So as we go through the layers, it goes from a concentric pattern at the very, very bottom. Then it goes into the lines. This goes back and forth. Then it pulls into our gyroid infill. You can see the little circle in the middle is actually moving around. That's how it makes a thread. Then it makes all of our holes in the very, very center, that 0.5 depth. And as I'm doing this, you'll notice all of our tree supports is coming up as well, a little bit like a draft shield. And as it gets closer and closer and closer, it's going to start to branch off. So you can see this area right here is getting very, very squiggly. And then it goes into this little crosshatch section. Then it will start to support our model. Again, the red is going to be our outside, the green is the inner wall, the yellow is the top and bottom, and the orange is our infill. And as we go, our gyro is going back and forth, back and forth. Our tree support, you can see, is well, it's branching off basically. It's getting more and more compressed so it can support the most amount of material until it supports our very large overhang, and then it will complete the very top surface of our print. So with that all done, we can save it to our disk. This is going to take 5 hours and 8 minutes, only 24 grams, which is good. This is a very small model, but because we set it to that super quality, that 0.12 millimeters, this is going to take a very long time to go. So cue the time lapse and have fun, guys.